There we go. All right, everyone, welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you all here. I am Lurie Daniel Favors, and I am very excited about this conversation. And I feel privileged that I get to moderate because I cannot wait to hear, in light of everything that's happening right now, what these amazing panelists are going to share with us. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for this very powerful and necessary conversation. And I want to be clear, this is more than a panel. This is a call to action. And so on behalf of the Publicist Forum and BOMESI, which is the Black-owned Media Equity and Sustainability Institute, we welcome you to the Supporting Black Media virtual town hall. Now, we are all crystal clear that Black media has always been the heartbeat of our stories, our challenges, our triumphs. It is essentially how we amplify and preserve the culture. It's how we tell our truths. Black media is how we learn better to advocate for ourselves, which is very necessary considering right now. And in a media landscape that is quite frankly, saturated with systematic bias. Black-owned media outlets remain in positions of being underfunded, underrepresented, and frankly, undervalued, both by others and some might also say by us. Now, today we are joined by some dynamic leaders in media who are and who have been shaping the culture and challenging the status quo. Our panelists include Natasha Alford, Senior Vice President of The Griot, Rae Holliday, founder of the Holliday Group, Devon Christopher Johnson, co-founder and CEO of BOMESI, Corey Murray, EVP of Editorial Content at Ebony Magazine, and Dayton Thomas, CEO of Daylight Media, Inc., and consultant for Penske Media Corporation. Now, these folks aren't just phenomenal names that we all know and love. They also bring with them decades of experience and passion that sit at the intersection of journalism, storytelling, branding, and advocacy. Now, we have some goals here today. This is not just talk for talk's sake. Our goals are simple, but they are urgent. And those include creating a space for honesty, for strategy, and for some real solutions. So whether you are a publicist, a journalist, a content creator, or a corporate ally, or some blend of all of the above, we all have a role to play now more than ever. And that role requires us to invest in, to protect, and to promote Black media. So let's get started. We're going to turn now to welcoming our friends onto the stage. And actually, one quick note for housekeeping, this is going to be an hour. We're going to keep it pithy. We're going to keep it tight, and we're going to keep it right. And this 1 hour is going to begin with some moderated questions, and that will be followed by some time for audience Q&A. And we will close with some calls to action, because again, we're not just here to hear ourselves talk. And so if you have questions, I ask that you put them in the question and answer portal, and I will select as many questions as we can possibly squeeze in the time that is allowed. I'm going to now turn the mic over to Aaliyah Crawford, who is the co-founder of TPF, and she will then introduce the other co-founders and provide us some background on this amazing organization and its mission and why supporting a town hall like this was so important for them. Aaliyah, take it away.
Thank you, Lurie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to our awesome panelists for being a part of this event. And thank you for BOMESI. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Lurie said, my name is Aaliyah Crawford, and I am a co-founder of the Publicists Forum, aka TPF. And my fellow co-founders are Michelle Huff Elliott, Sarita Oglesby, and Simone Smalls. We created the Publicists Forum during the pandemic in 2021 in response to some of the crises and experiences that our fellow publicists and ourselves were having during that particular time. And some of those challenges remain. The mission of the Publicists Forum is to amplify the voices of public relations and media professionals who are Black or persons of color within our industry, while we continue to promote and support diverse voices, images, brands, and institutions throughout media and our culture. We also seek to be a reliable source of information, resources, and opportunities for our fellow publicists. And that's why we wanted to host this event today, to make sure that we are giving our attention and focus to some of the changes and challenges that we're seeing with Black media and Black-owned media. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Aaliyah. Y'all are truly giving us a model of what it means to not just arrive, but then to make sure you're opening pathways for folks coming behind you. I now want to bring Renisha Bing from BOMESI onto the platform. If you could please talk with us about the goals and the purpose that BOMESI serves, such an important institution, and why you all felt that this town hall was the perfect answer to what it is we're all facing and seeing right now.
Thank you, Lurie. And I'm just so honored. I will be brief because there's so many icons on this call, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. So thank you all for being here. And thank you to the team behind the scenes for putting this all together. Kevin, community manager of BOMESI, the publicist forum, all of the folks. I know this is a long and valid effort. So I am Ranisha Bing, co-founder of BOMESI, also chief mission officer. We also started during the pandemic and in response to making sure that the moment of advertisers waking up to their exclusion of Black-owned media became a movement and not just a moment. And so now, 5 years later, we are still here. We're built around three pillars: ecosystem, education, economic empowerment. So through those pillars, we activate various initiatives with the goal ultimately of sustainability. What really is encompassed with sustainability? Access to the money, access to the funds. So we facilitate, conversations to create exposure to different advertisers and also equip media companies with the technology and resources to unlock those dollars. But the other side of it is the culture, right? And making sure that we own our story end to end, that we are the authorities of our culture. And we've talked about this internally. The ads play a role, but also access to talent, access to relationships and exclusives and things that allow Black-owned media to be the authority, to be the source of what happens in our culture and community. So I'm thrilled that this conversation is happening, especially with everything happening with the world in regard to media and free speech and censorship. This is really important more than ever for us to own our story, have the resources to tell our story, and that's why we're here. So thank you.
Really grateful. The purpose of bringing all of us together is so phenomenal, and frankly, we are desperately in need of more and more spaces like these. So before we even get started, I want to thank both of your organizations for gathering us together, because this is exactly what is necessary right now. So let's get into our conversation. We have already met our panelists, and Corey Murray, who is EVP of editorial content at Ebony Magazine. I'm going to start with you, and panelists, we're about to do this first question rapid fire. Okay, so this is not one of those long soliloquies. We want to really get to the heart of it in one sentence or less. And Corey, I'm going to start with you. Talk with us about what supporting Black media means to you personally.
What supporting Black media means to me personally is personal for me. The majority of my career has been with Black media. My first magazine job, and I'm talking way back to Hair Magazine. I'm showing my age by saying that. That was my first byline, and I got a check for it. I forgot how much. And then the bulk of my career was at Essence for 22 years, and now being at Ebony, it is personal for me. It's how I eat, it's how I live, it's how I thrive as with Black media.
Thank you for that. Now, when it's been so long that you forgot the amount of the first check, you've been doing the thing for a minute. Natasha, I'm going to come now next to you. Supporting Black media might mean different things to different people. For you, where do you land on how that looks?
Well, Lurie, thank you so much for having me. So great to see my fellow panelists, people I've long admired and who have inspired me. And I would just say the best example of what it means to me is going from a mainstream TV newsroom. The dream was to be Soledad O'Brien. I was trying to be out there in those streets with the camera and the microphone reporting live. And I left that newsroom, and my next stop was the griot. And people tell you, oh, you work a couple of years someplace, you move on. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm coming up on 10 years in December. So that's how personal it is for me. It is intentional. It is freedom. It is being able to be myself 100% every day at work, and to try to show our community that we can be 100% ourselves and be enough, and affirming that. So that's what it means to me.
I love that, because showing up 100% is not, it's a privilege for so many of us. And that's why being able to do so means so much. Rae, I want to turn now to you. Talk to us, Brother Holliday. What does supporting Black media look like for you before we dip into more of the historical context?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm honored to be among my real peers in real life. Salute. Supporting Black media for me, though, as a talent relations executive, is what the very thing that the fabric of what these ladies that put this together do, the Saritas, the Michelles, the Simones, the Aaliyahs, when they bring their talent to us first. That's what supporting Black media is, right? When we're on the red carpets and they see us and they pull us and we don't have to scramble, right? When they make sure that we're at the top of the press list, that's what supporting Black media means to me. That helps me help us by us giving it first.
I love that. Yeah, I hope y'all taking notes because there are instructions here for those of you who do not already know. Now, let's get a little bit into the history, and then we're going to pull some additional voices from our panelists in. We know that Black-owned media has always been that vital force for telling our stories. That's literally where we started, and telling our stories authentically, right? And challenging the misinformation and the disinformation campaigns that permeate about us. Now, over the decades, we also know that Black media has had to weather some significant changes, and the current era is definitely one of those. But we've also seen other iterations of this. There is the decline of print outlets and to the rise and takeover in many ways of these digital spaces and the shifts that we have all seen in advertising dollars. Yet its role as a voice for truth and for our culture and community remains as essential as ever. And I would actually say now more than ever. Now, according to a study from NPR, there was a story in 2023 that noted that only 4% of all media in the United States is Black owned. That's all of it. That's the entire pie, 4%. And experts say that biased practices from advertisers, of course, make it harder for Black-owned media companies to be profitable. However, we also know that today's Black media continue to play major roles in covering issues that impact our community, issues like racism, social justice, health disparities, and more, with far more depth and nuance than a significant number of the mainstream outlets. So in light of that historical context, Brother Dayton, I'm going to come to you with the first question. In this segment, how has the role of Black-owned media, from your perspective, evolved over time? And help us to Sankofa a bit. Help us to go back to the past and pull some of those lessons from that history so that they can serve more as guideposts for us today.
Wow, great question. Thank you for having me, everyone. Great to be here with all y'all. That's a huge question as far as like going over history of Black media. I think there are a couple of points though that speak to the now and kind of like why we're in the position we're in. When you look at everything that's progressing right now, in the introduction, you mentioned how, the internet and the tech space is kind of, they have taken over, but that's because they've been pumped with millions and millions and millions of dollars. And that's the one thing that keeps them going and keeps them innovating and having like the kind of marketing and support and all the resources that they're able to draw from to keep these things going. So you're going to always get the new apps. You're going to always get the new AI. You're going to always get the new chat GBT or whatever the case is. However, in Black media, we struggle to get significant dollars for basic needs. There's been so many times where a Black publication can't make payroll. That should not be the case if we're serving the people. One of the things that I thought was going to help, if we're going to the history aspect of it, that I thought was really going to help push us forward as a genre, was when everything tragically happened to George Floyd, and all of these mainstream companies, they dedicated all these tens of millions of dollars, and some of them even $100 million was offered and said like, hey, we're going to put it into, Black culture and Black media and all this. Where's that money? All of that is going away. DEI is gone. So we're not even getting to the point where we could, grow. We're actually being devalued as a genre. And that means that the mainstream that we connect our Black culture to does not respect us. They don't respect us in that way. However, they siphon all of the sauce from us to help make their tech go hot, to help make their shows go hot, and all these streaming platforms and all of that. They make those in the movies. They make all those things from our culture. And that's the part where Black media, if they're able to do that, sometimes I get upset, and I'm sorry, I don't want to go too long, but I get upset because we'll be if it's not for the Leahs, Michelles, Saritas, and Simones, we might not even get that interview with Black talent in something that's Black. We might not even get them on the red carpet, right? Am I bugging? It was a time where we had to fight for Black Panther. I was like, I'm here fighting for Black Panther. I'm Black Panther. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? It's insane. So I feel like the state of Black media really needs to supercharge itself, and it's only going to work if we do it ourselves. We have to do that collective bargaining and collective pass that plate around to ourselves, like how they used to do it back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, supporting like Amsterdam News and all of that. Like people forget about those foundational magazines. Corey is at the historic and legacy foundation at Ebony. There were times where Ebony and Jet, that's all we had really to understand what mainstream success looked like for Black people. So we could talk about Black media all day, and until we're able to help sustain, fortresses like that and make sure that they don't fall, we're going to be in trouble.
So I got to pull out my civil rights lawyer hat just a little bit. I know this is media, but there's some overlap here that's very interesting to me, because I want to stick with you if we can for just a minute, Daytwan, and then Davon, I'm going to come to you next. What responsibility does the Black consumer have in this moment? If we're looking at the civil rights umbrella as sort of being proactively dismantled right now, I will say demolished. One of my listeners said, stop saying dismantle. Dismantles means we can put it back together. They are demolishing it. And in light of the fact that all that is happening that we see happening, one of my theories from the legal side is that we have to consider that the 1964 Civil Rights Act and all of its progeny, which banned racism, the likes of which we're discussing today, let's pretend that goes away. And these people are crystal clear that they do not want to fund, support, vote for, engage, co-sponsor, align with anything that has to do with us right now. And so if we were to pretend that help is never coming back, that the days of George Floyd funding, and I hate even using that phrase for it, but that those days are never coming back. And we don't have 60 years of integration. The first time the country did this was only 12 years of Reconstruction. After 60 years of integration, if they say we're never coming back to support you, what is the obligation? And do you envision a business model whereby we as a community can sustain our own media for ourselves?
I really feel it's like I was saying earlier. I mean, how has the Black church survived? Like it doesn't get any outside white dollars to stay around for hundreds of years. That all comes from our grandparents, our uncles, our aunts. They all get together. They have them fish fries. They have them church selling biscuits. They do whatever they need to do to get that hole fixed in the roof. And right now we don't have a roof in Black media. We don't. We're getting rained on. So we have to look at the past and how they survived during civil rights era and how they were able to, survive the boycotts and all of that for the buses and everything. We really got to go back to grassroots. And one of the issues is that history is trying to be wiped away. So if Black media doesn't push it themselves or us, making sure that the next generation knows that we've been here before. We've been here before, and it's been harder. I feel like it was harder back then than it is now. As bad as it may seem, we have it way better. You know what I mean?
Harriet Tubman had a Google
Come
Maps.
on, she had no Google Maps.
Come on. All right, Davon. Thank you. And also the Black church did not find the church to be inferior because it had need for financial sustainability, right? So we as the consumer base also have to change our mindset when it comes to supporting our own. Davon, I'd love to bring your voice into this space. It's so good to have you here as well. Talk to us about how you would describe the current landscape of Black-owned media today. We looked a little bit at the history. What's happening right now? What's working? How come we ain't got no roof? What's happening?
Well, I want to say BOMESI's building a roof. We got a bunch of tiles. We need some hammers and some nails and some workers to bang that roof in. So we are doing the work. BOMESI started in 2020, and we knew that the sentiment of supporting George Floyd, diverse on media, putting ad dollars into diverse outlets wasn't going to last a long time. I'm actually surprised it lasted as long as it did last. So our call to action for ourselves was, how do we build infrastructure, right? How do we build a business case for the content we produce and the platforms we represent to drive more revenue and value to our partners, whether it's an agency or a brand or a publicist or record labels or wherever that's at. We weren't depending on sympathy or sympathy dollars because those don't pay bills. That just maybe brings tears back away, but it doesn't pay any bills. So our goal is always, building infrastructure. And I did study failures of the past in building a roadmap for success for BOMESI, I studied my own failures as a 20-year veteran as an independent media owner with Blue Life Media Group with Blue Magazine that I started in my Harlem apartment because I applied for a job at Vibe and I did not get the job. So I said, middle finger up to you guys. I'm going to start my own
The
magazine.
middle finger wasn't for me. I
It
wasn't
wasn't
there
for
when
you.
that happened.
You wasn't there yet, Deshaun. And I will say, and 20 years later, Blue Magazine still prints, right? We're one of the only independent-owned, Black-owned media companies that print magazines and put Black male faces on the cover that are not just athletes and musicians, but also inclusive of. But I'm here for BOMESI. But that foundation and that struggle that I had as an independent media owner to get support from advertisers, but also get support from publicists. I think it's important for us not just to think the enemy doesn't look like us. The enemy often does look like us by doing the work of the enemy, right? And very often there are budgets and there's opportunities that are held back from diverse publishers, for independent media, for independent storytellers, because the gatekeepers that look like us have the gates locked and they're not letting us in. So I'll be a bit of a rebel on this call and also call out Black people and call out Black people in positions of power, whether it's at a major media company or at an ad agency. When there's an opportunity to allow folks and good quality journalism, good quality storytelling, good quality images of Black people and brown people, we're not doing that. We're often only putting our resources and our money and our responses to things that make us look bad. And then we turn and say, oh, but white America is not supporting us. Well, we just showed them what we support. We just showed them what we buy, what we read, what we tune into, what we subscribe to. We told them that that's okay. So we can't then say, hey, you're not supporting this wonderful, great story I'm telling about the Black family buying houses and real estate and all these different things, because we have to do that. And just one last wraparound. I think that before in the civil rights movement and even thinking of emancipation and Reconstruction, there was a commonality that we all needed to move up and we all needed to do this together. I think the trick this time was a few folks got let in and they thought they were special. And they thought their specialness meant keeping us out. And we need to fix that. And I do want to give a shout out to the publicists on this call, because these are the ones that when I started my own media company in my Harlem apartment with no contacts, I called these folks and they answered and they gave me an opportunity. So I want to make sure the publicists that are doing the work are often, unsung heroes, but all of the ladies on this call that are publicists have been for years supporting diverse storytellers and diverse media outlets. And I'll go on mute now.
What I'm picking up what you're putting down, friend, and what I'm hearing is access to whiteness has got some of us confused about how we should be showing up and supporting media. Okay, I feel you. Now let's talk a little bit about what's happening in light of the current whatever this is. And let's see. Oh, Corey, I want to bring your voice back onto the microphone and let's talk about, from your perspective, the impacts that everyone in Black media is experiencing right now with the rollbacks of DEI initiative, with these governmental ordinances that are now limiting equity programs, if not wholly declaring them unlawful. There are a lot of Black-owned outlets and PR agencies, particularly Black owned agencies, that have seen these ripple effects. Now, what are you seeing when it comes to media and advertising? And are you sensing chilling effects as it pertains to a pullback on equity campaigns? And what is your perspective on the overall impact that will have?
It's interesting. I would say a blanket yes. I have been in my seat at Ebony. I have seen the faucet is turned off a little bit as far as ad dollars that are coming in. What was really telling, this is not directly related to ad dollars, but Ebony just announced this Power 100 list. And a couple of people on the list, we're celebrating, Black excellence. And some of these people have equity and inclusion in their titles, race in their titles. And it was interesting that I had to make changes to their titles. And these are people at major corporations that write us checks for advertising. I had to edit it out. He was like, now I've outed somebody, but this one man, he's like, this is no longer my title. Can you please change it? And for me to see that up close, because he is working for a brand that has supported us in the past And now I can only imagine what he's going through in his own corporation. So it is challenging, but it does cause us to be kind of like what Daytwan is kind of speaking to as far as that energy of the Black church. It's caused us to step back and say, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to shift? How are we going to change so that now we are looking at where can we go that people are ignoring? Like, where can we show up? Because let's say if everyone is over here trying to get dollars over here, we need to look broader and say, where can we go and show that our audience has impact and has value to this particular advertiser's product? So that's what we're challenged with today. And it's, sometimes it's interesting, but sometimes it is a very real moment that we're in, a real challenging moment. Let me say that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Natasha, if you could come and join us on the microphone, my friend. I want to ask a slightly different version of a similar question to you. And let's talk about the work that you all are seeing at the GRIO. You have had to adjust in some ways, I'm sure, but how, as it pertains to storytelling, picking up on what Corey was just saying a moment ago, if people who are sitting in the same corporations that they were sitting at before with these titles that can no longer proudly wear these titles, what else are you seeing in terms of adjusting with storytelling? At our law center, we toyed with the idea of de-Blackifying. We are a racial justice law center. We exist to help Black people, and yet we had to have internal conversations about how we were going to approach a Black student conference. You know how hard it is to get marginalized and historically underrepresented students on a hashtag or on a t-shirt. So not even being able to use the language has been so limiting. Talk to us about what you all are seeing at the GRIO as it pertains to how you're adjusting the frames that you're using for stories and your actual storytelling process writ large.
Lurie, the convo is so good because there are like 5 different directions I want to go in. So just to immediately answer your question very shortly before people forget what you're asking, have adjustments been made? We are reporting straight facts, but even in reporting straight facts, I want you to know that there's a dollar cost to that. Every time we mention DEI in a headline, it lowers the money that we get on an ad. Every time Trump's name is in a headline, even, it lowers the kind of money that we can get on an ad. You know what brings us in the most money? Lifestyle, entertainment, celebrity. So when people say, why do you guys cover that? Yes, it is important. Yes, there is a place, there is balance. We want to have joy as we talk about the reality of the moment. But the truth is that choosing editorially to focus on the serious issues, the news and the politics, that does not pay us. That does not keep the lights on. So when you see those stories, I just need our audiences to appreciate that is a commitment that we are making, that we pay a cost when we do that. And I just wish, I think people, if they knew it, they would appreciate and understand where it comes from. I just wanted to take a step back to your first question about history, because we have to talk about the why here. Why are we here? First of all, there's a difference between Black owned media and Black targeted media. There are a lot of sites, I will not have to name names, but you can imagine the number, that have millions and millions of followers with Black people who are featured in the stories, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're owned by Black people. It doesn't mean that they have sort of ethics around the way that they represent us and the stories that they pick and who they make famous by reporting on them again and again and again, so that you know names that you're like, why am I saying this name? Like, why do I know all this person's business? These are choices that are made at the top about who matters and what stories matter. So I just want to say that this is why we are here. This is why it matters to have Black owned. And if you know who you're supporting, then you can make choices about where you spend your time when you're scrolling on your phone, who you follow, who you choose to unfollow. In 1961, Dorothy Butler Gilliam, the first Black woman reporter at the Washington Post, had to sleep in a funeral home when she was reporting in the South because she could not stay in hotels. So when we say Black media and people say, why do you have to have Black media? This is the legacy that we come from. White newsrooms did not accept us. That was their choice. We chose to still tell our stories and make sure our community was represented. In 1968, the Kerner Commission, look it up, they issued a report that said, The reason why you're having riots in America is because there are two Americas, and white newsrooms ignore Black stories. They only want to talk about violence. They only want to talk about unrest without talking about the causes of those things. And so this came from the government. Even the government had to admit that in order to heal America, in order to move past unrest, newsrooms had to change. Newsrooms had to hire Black journalists. And here we are in 2025, and our newsrooms still aren't diverse, the mainstream newsrooms. So when we say we're here, this is actually social justice, our very existence, the stories that we do every day. We are fighting, right, against a history of oppression and being left out. And so us having to adjust in the moment, even if you see adjustments being made, understand that this is about our survival. In many cases, we really just want to still be here for you so that you don't have to just go to blogs when you wake up in the morning, and you could come to our sites and know that somebody who is a true journalist and a true writer took time to put together a story that uplifts the culture. I'll stop there.
No, I really appreciate it. You know, I love history, so I really appreciate you bringing that forward. And again, I want to sit with you for just a moment. And Corey, I would love for you to come back as well, because as Corey representing a legacy media organization, and Natasha, in light of everything that you just said, we're in a situation right now where we have to, I think that the facts would suggest that we have to presume the support is going to continue a downward spiral, a downward trend. And by that support, I mean support from corporate entities, because right now we are seeing the goalposts and the permissions being given to, frankly, do what a lot of civil rights lawyers have said was going to happen, which was that they have only, in the era of civil rights, hired as many of us and incorporated as many of our voices as they could, and as few as they could, without facing a lawsuit for discrimination. So let's pretend like they're, but Maya Angelou was here, and she said, when people show you who they are, believe them. I can hear her as an ancestral saying, they done showed you who they are. Are you gonna believe them now? So if this is the case, and we should presume that that help is not coming back in any way, shape, or form, certainly not quickly enough to salvage what we hold so dear about our industry. What is the obligation of those of us who have positions of power? Because we all have identified Black-owned media. We have identified that the Black consumer plays a very key role. Rae, I believe it was you that said, wait a minute, or maybe it was Davon who said, if the consumer is showing you that we like ratchet trash, no shade, no shade. I love a good ratchet moment as much as anybody else. But if that's what we value and prefer, and that's the only thing getting dollars, what obligation do we as media consumers have in order to step in and say, you know what? We're going to be all right because we got our own back. We know that these folks are not going to promote this news. We know they're not going to promote this content. We are going to have to step up. Corey, if you could speak to that. And then Rae, I'd love to get you and Daytwan to speak on that as well.
Well, I think for us is, I mean, it's true. Natasha said it perfectly. Like the things that are, I hate to use the word clickbait, but the things that give us the most traffic, I'll tell you right now, I wish I could have a story about Alandria from Love Island every day. She is powering ebony.com right now. People love her. But I think it's how we cover her. Yes, you know, I'll be honest, full disclosure, I'm not that big into reality TV. I didn't watch her, but I get that she is the people's champ, if you will. So it's our job to figure out, okay, how can we slice this up and give it to a way that's through the ebony lens or through the griot lens or any other our outlets here and how we tell these stories. And that is our obligation, because we can't just give it all away. I mean, no shade to the shade room, but we're not the shade room. And let's be clear, the shade room gets a lot of flack, but they do a lot of other stories, right? But it's the ones that are like the ratchet ones that seem to populate or bubble up the most. But with that said, we still hold, I mean, it goes back to our individual mission statements. For us at Ebony, we have to be the voice for our community. We have respect in our legacy. It's our 80th anniversary. Okay, we've been through a lot. We have covered the civil rights. We have been amplifying Black stories. It's about our narratives. We will continue to do that. We're not going to move our goalposts. How much of it we do, yes, we'll be depending on resources, but we're not going to steer away from what our core value is to go chase a dollar so that we're inauthentic to who we are, because we know the importance of what we do, even if 5 people read it.
Ashe. Now, I said to our other panelists that I was going to bring you in for that same question, but I just looked at the clock and we are zipping along here. So I actually want to pause and get some audience questions in because we've got some really, really good ones. And Daetuan and Rae, I'd like to kick off this first set of questions with you two. The first question, how do you move on social media in this climate as a journalist, right? We've seen what happened to our dear sister Karen at the Washington Post. How do you present yourself? How do you engage in social media? And do you, the question says, hold back from sharing or commenting on certain political posts? What does self-preservation look like in a moment like this for you, Daetuan?
Wow, great question. Because I'm always about to start, and then I'll be like, such and such might be watching, or such and such. Like I'm self-editing, I'm self-censoring. A lot of times, not because of I'm afraid of what my thoughts may do. I'm afraid of what kind of business I can and can't do based on who might be watching sometimes. I'm just being totally honest. So I'll try to find a way, maybe a song or maybe a meme or something. I got to get it out though, because I'm a creative too. So if it just sit with me, I'm gonna get sick. So I try to find like a little creative way to get it out there. Whereas some people are a little bit more bolder or emboldened to do that and face the consequences. And a lot of times facing the consequences is about, having no fear within those spaces. Now, if it's something that when I was editor-in-chief of Vibe, if it's something that the culture needs, I'm all in. But if it's something that I'm personally responsible for in my own voice, that's where I'm a little bit like, all right, let me make sure I don't want to get doxxed. Like, nobody wants to have those other consequences that come with that. But we also don't want to be silent in the moment of rage when we're supposed to be rageful. And I think it's kind of like a slippery slope, but it's also a balancing act. And I've been doing that for a long time within my career.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Rae Holliday, I want to bring you in for the next question, which is another audience question, talking about Black media and what it looks like for the culture. The question says, as executives, how can we debunk the systemic mindsets of competition while infusing collaboration?
Here we go. I love that. So just like yesterday's price is not today's price, right? Yesterday's media is not today's media either, right? When we look at what the others are doing, they bundle, right? When I go to Amazon, I can get all the subscriptions. I go to Amazon, I can get stars. I can get stuff that I don't even know. But you know what? That's what they do. The one thing that we're missing is that conglomeration. You know what I mean? I was talking to my good friend Mary Pryor, who I know is watching, and she said, imagine if we banded together when these RFPs come in and we say, you know what? Y'all need the money. We want the money, but we don't want it to go anywhere else. What if we got together and did it together as a conglomerate? I think that's the one thing that's missing. I think going back to Daetuan's point, the Black church is still thriving today. And one of the main reasons why is because as a pastor of a church, and I'm not one yet, right? But as the pastor of a church, when I go on vacation, I'm either going to get somebody in-house or I'm going to go get another pastor, right? I'm not worried that he's going to steal my flock. We just going to do it together. And we're going to do vice versa. If we get out of that and are willing to really collaborate, as a whole, Black media would really be a thing, because where else would they go? Because now you got to go through all of us. You don't have another option. That's all I got.
See, but you be dropping them dimes so quick. Yes, Daetuan.
Real quick, like just to jump on that, Rae, that's incredible. I think one of the issues and why that can happen is because Black targeted media, like Natasha was talking about, and Black owned are different. If it's Black owned, that conversation is a lot easier to happen. But if it's white owned Black media, they're not looking at it like that. They're not looking at what helped us survive as a culture, outside of media. So it makes the conversation a lot harder. And that's a hurdle that I think we have to meet and try to find a way around or through.
But I also think they don't have to understand or know or respect it, right? I think that's the thing I'm trying to lean on. Is like we know, and we know the history, and we understand it. So for those institutions that are not owned by someone that looks like us, then let them stay over there and do their thing. But we know there are a handful of publishers, or outlets on this call. We see them at different events. We can take 5 minutes and say, hey, let's grab coffee next week. I got this idea I want to run by you. Or we did this video content and it didn't work for us because it was like the timing was off. But you guys should probably run it on your platform also, and we can figure out a shared syndication price that we can do. So there are things that can happen already that aren't like from out of space you got to pull down. They already exist. We have to be willing to do it, and we might sacrifice not being the most popular or the most cool or the most clicks, but we may get the right clicks and get the right audience, and we start to develop on that. But also reinvestment, right? I think you guys mentioned earlier technology, apps, and AI, and all these different things. Like also, like Black-owned media has to modernize, right? And we've got to invest not just in high salaries or vacation homes on the vineyard. We also have to invest in our people and bring in new talent and bringing in more opportunities. So like we have to also, I'm going to keep bringing this back to us, right? Because I don't expect a white savior. I expect a savior to look like me, right? Because we have the same history and background. So we have to also say, what have we done in the past? Because Black-owned media was winning a lot. In the 80s and 90s, money was flowing in. Where were those investments and collaboration? Where was the M&A? Where was the technology? Where was, okay, maybe less big office space with the nice living room table. Maybe we hired some, creative interns and bought some new equipment. So like, I'm going to always call us out first because if we see the problem, then why are we asking them to fix themselves when we have the tools to fix it ourselves? So.
So then let's sit there for just a second, because then if that's the case and the audience plays a fundamental role in distinguishing between their support for Black owned versus Black targeted, and is there an obligation on behalf of us in the industry to educate the audience about that? Because if they are the generic consumer, they are consuming what is given to them easily. And if there's not any media literacy taking place right now, is there an obligation for those of us in the industry to educate the audience and say, oh, that's real cute, too bad it ain't Black owned? Like, that would be real nice if it was Black owned, wouldn't it? Lovely event you have in here. Would be great if it were Black owned, wouldn't it? What is our obligation in this industry to make sure people are prepared to make those distinctions, and then challenge that? If we're doing it for the culture, stand up for the culture. Like, now that you know, how can we make those sorts of decisions? And that's an open question, because I didn't even know who was aimed at. I just felt emotion.
I love that. I wish we could have like a little stamp across all our orgs, like Black owned, like the same stamp, kind of when you go to the grocery store, you're looking for organic. Like that is what we should have.
Davon is pointing to it. He said that's what the sign looked like.
Send it to me. Send it to me.
There's a stamp on Black-owned media platforms on their site.
I need it. I need it right now on the homepage.
It does exist. We have a stamp.
I was going to say also, like, people have to understand that they're getting all this for free from us, right? It's free. They don't have to put up a cent or a dollar. What would it mean if, like in Roland Martin's case, he has like a fan club or a group, people invest in the same way you write that check to, the United Negro College Fund or to the church? It's like setting aside the $10 or the $25 or even the $5 and it being part of this Black-owned media movement. I think it shows responsible media consumption, which is an example we have to provide. There's a whole new generation that still does not have media literacy. They've been thrown in a world where opinion is being put right beside the news and presented as if they're the same, where everybody got the same publishing tools at the same time without the training or the responsibility or the legal understanding. So distinguishing what it means to support us, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. We got some more great audience questions coming in, and I'm going to try to get to, I think, all of these if we can. I'm going to start with the one I see most recent. What is the recommendation for those publicists who have serious Black stories that they want to share, that need to be shared? What should they be considering as they're approaching outlets in this very anti-DEI populist environment in a way that adds value as opposed to stressing out the team? What's your advice for publicists in this space?
I'm going to jump in because I'm sorry, everyone. I'm going to have to go because I have a flight that I've got to catch. But what I will say for publicists, I would say just stay honest. I shared this with Simone Smalls that back in my Essence days when we went through furloughs and we were down to felt like 7 people on a team from 70, we got inundated with emails, and I just could not go through it all. And I was actually called out in a publicist forum for not answering emails. But I think if your story is important, stay honest. Stay honest. I mean, the good thing about where we are in this time, you can find my phone number, you can get in my DMs, you have my work email. I think you just have to do what you have to do to make sure that we are aware of the story you have to tell. But also, I will say this, sometimes you have to be respectful of when we can't do it, because I'm going to share with you guys right now, at Ebony, we don't have a dedicated news reporter, which is not great, but I don't really have the setup for my team to go out and stand up and, let's say, report on the White House every day. You know what I mean? I just don't have that resource. So sometimes I need the understanding of why we cannot do a particular story, but I go back on, if it's something that you feel strong about, just 10 toes down about it and get a publication's attention. But I've got to go. Thank you all. I love seeing everybody here. Take care.
Thank you,
Be
Corey.
safe. Travel
Bye.
well.
Thank you.
Let's stick with a tangentially related question to the one that we just heard. Not everybody who is Black and in media is in Black media, and many of us are in other organizations and have the capacity to influence budgets, have the capacity to steer opportunities towards Black media members. What should that look like? What is the call to action for those who perhaps are in spaces where there are resources? What concrete things should they be doing to make sure that those resources are making their way into our community?
I'll give a quick little example, just based on what Corey just said, right? Right now, Ebony doesn't have a news reporter, right? But I do know an amazing platform called the Black Wall Street Times, right? And they cover news all the time, right? So if I'm in a position of power and I want to get that story told, but I really want it on Ebony, I can say, hey, Ebony, Black Wall Street Times, why don't you guys collaborate on this piece? I can put budget behind it. I can put resources behind it for it to live on both platforms. That's a real life opportunity scenario that can happen after this call. I think that's the way we have to look at this. It's like, if there are gaps and there are spaces that we want to do a thing on, but it sits someplace else, and we have the power to bring those together, they can bring those things together. I mean, I've worked on through BOMESI. We work with 20 to 30 cohorts of publishers at a time on a media or a content campaign. We just did something with a giant tech platform, and we brought in a HBCU focused platform and that tech platform, and we worked together on that. We've done that with some music artists and et cetera. I think there's a ways to collaborate from positions of power. And also, I think, don't be afraid to lead. Right? If you do have this budget and you have this position, whether it's a chief diversity officer or strategic inclusive media rep, whatever the new title for that thing is, be brave and cut that check and bring some new platforms in. Yes, you're going to always go with the Ebony and the Essence and the Black Enterprise. So do that as your base, but then bring in 3 or 4 more other platforms. So you'll get your guaranteed impressions, you'll get the scale that you need, but you also give opportunity to some other emerging platforms. And I just want to piggyback on the last comment about publicists. I think it starts before you have that hot, juicy, amazing story. I think include us in all the things. Like, don't just give us when you have the new talent that nobody else knows, and you keep trying to give me the news story. Like, where were you when you was repping Beyonce? Why you didn't have us on that press run? So that, I think, it starts before you need that favor called in. But also Black-owned media, make sure when we do have opportunities that we do deliver, right? Because we're all responsible, especially in this climate, for the perception of who we are and how we show up, whether in Black-owned media or in non-Black-owned media. What I do, what you do, it all reflects, and we're all either be celebrated or punished for those bad decisions.
Said Beyonce, that felt personal. Okay, so we got just a few questions left here, and I'm so glad that we're able to get to as many of these as possible. There's a question about, where are the Black media distribution companies? And the question literally says, is it Tubi? Is it YouTube? Where are the, and no shade, just where are they, and how can more folk in the industry connect with them and make meaningful collaborations happen?
That one, I'm not sure if I'm best positioned to answer it, but because I have to go get my son from school, I'll take a quick stab at it before I say my goodbye. There was a time where we had the Griot television, and it was just focused on news, right? And the Griot TV, it still exists, y'all. Like, we are still here. We're still in the fight. But when it came to people actually watching and investing in the news part, there was a little bit of tension there, right? The choices that people make in terms of where they put their eyeballs mattered. So I would just say for everyone, when you see those new distribution platforms or announcements made about these big moments, that is the time to lock in, because it's all about numbers. It's not about how good the pitch sounds. At the end of the day, people want to know if you're watching, right? Like, this is a business that we're also running. So I believe in us. I think the distribution platforms will exist, but when they are announced, it's time for all of us lockstep, even if they're a competitor, to show up and to be there. And then the last thing I was just going to say before I go, Corey was talking, or we've all have been talking about, like, the narrative around Black media, what it means to be part of Black media. And I want people, especially my mainstream journalism friends, to talk about us as if we are a destination, right? We're not a place to pass through. We're not a place where you just get your experience. You can win awards here. You can make impact here. You can break national news here. We've done it all. I've interviewed Kamala Harris. I've interviewed Denzel Washington, and it was from Black media. And sometimes I know that in certain other places, I don't know if those opportunities would be guaranteed. So I'm just saying, when we do the good work, recognize us, give us the awards, give us the recognition that we deserve, give us our flowers, because we are serving a loyal and very engaged audience. And so, yes, it's just
your call to action for us, Natasha. I know you got to go.
That's my call. That's my call. And
Okay.
favorite the Griot on our go to the Griot's Instagram, and actually all the brands here. If you go to our Instagram account and you press the 3 dots on the upper right of a profile, you can make it a favorite, so it will always appear first in your feed. That is one step that I would ask everyone to do. And then also for publicists, give us more lead time, because many of us do have smaller teams. If you just tell us a couple of days before, like, I know it makes it fresh and, cool and everything, but actually more lead time allows us to plan to make sure that we can cover your story.
I appreciate that. Travel safely, my friend.
Thank you. Such an honor to be here. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Okay, so a couple last few questions that we can try to get to. What is the recommendation? Oh, no, hold on. I think Natasha's answered that one, so I want to make sure we are not doubling up. Okay, and then I'm seeing that there's no final answer on Tubi versus YouTube. Either of you have a statement or a comment on that, just for purpose? I see no one. Okay. All right. Moving on. I understand how to move on. All right. So when you're thinking about calls to action, there were some folks who were trying to determine, what does collaboration look like? Give us some concrete examples. I know conglomerates like Word and Black, where you have a bunch of different print outlets that came together, and now I can get articles from a variety of spaces. Are there other models that we should be considering for what collaboration look like? As we're talking about, whether or not Black media is accessing the technology, are they making good use of it in the same way that their peers are? Are there other examples of potential collaborations that you've either seen within our community or perhaps within other communities that seem to be able to help them meet their needs? And if so, what do those look like? Oh, Rae, I see you talking, but I can't hear you.
Right. It's like, so that's the biggest issue, right? There are not a lot of examples, and that's why we need to start to set it, right? And so let's go back to the Ebony 100 last year, where all of the sponsors were us. It was like Essence and Hello Beautiful. And that was the first time that I had seen anything like that happen, but there were more eyes on it. And I kind of felt like they had more traction because of that. So I think it's only up to us to start that spark so that it can really be a thing. So I think this conversation is so important, because I know people are thinking about it, but us, the thought leaders in this conversation, having this conversation, it coming from us, I think it'll start to resonate, and we can figure out what that plan is.
Okay, and I'm seeing another question. Jason says, I'm the owner of the Los Angeles Standard newspaper. The issue I've had is getting in contact with the people who make decisions on corporate ad buys. What advice do you all have on getting in touch with the right people?
So I guess it's a good BOMESI question. One, check out BOMESI webinars. It's breadth of information around that. We lead a lot of that charge and bring in advertisers to work with new platforms that you haven't before. But I will say, learn who at the agency are the stakeholders and what you're looking for, right? So there are media investment teams versus just people that work at an ad agency. So you could be emailing someone in the agency, but they're doing creative, right? They're the ones in charge of how the ad looks, but they're not in charge of strategy. I think that's important. So I think spend some time and really target and hyper focus who you want to reach out to and how you want to reach out to them to do, advertising buys. But also understand, like, some have thresholds around traffic. And if your traffic isn't there, then you aren't going to get a response because you haven't reached that threshold. Now, we talked about collaboration. So maybe you say, hey, you know what? I'm over here on the West Coast and I have this audience that's this size on the West Coast. This is a national campaign. Is there someone in Chicago, someone in Dallas, and someone in New York that I can collaborate with? And the four of us now cover the entire United States. And then we go after the advertising buy. I think that's how we have to look at it. Like, you'll get your piece, but you don't, just because you want the check don't mean they have to give it to you, right? You got to reach certain thresholds that they have internally and make sure you match those KPIs. So, yeah, make sure you reach out to the right person. I spent one time a year emailing someone that had no money decision whatsoever on an advertising campaign. They were great meetings and some great lunches, and it was wonderful, but they could not get me a check from the budget. So, yeah.
Now, there's some questions about shifting from content creation to distribution ownership. Davon, this might also be a place for you as well. And the question is, what if the solution isn't just creating content, but owning distribution? It's imagine a global streaming platform built by us, for us, where we control the stories, the audience, the revenue. Isn't that the next step? How do you respond to that?
I think they're right. I think that and many other things are next steps. But I do think for Black Americans specifically, I think we tend to look at ourselves as this 13% of this country, but not like a global majority. And I think as we do the math and we think about the cultural effect that Black audiences in America have on every part of this planet, I think that is where the growth opportunity is. Because now with social media, with Instagram, with TikTok, with YouTube, et cetera, now we see each other, right? So now it's not just this limited perception of what Black is and like our American mainstream controlled news media. We can see ourselves globally. So I do think, Black culture is a commodity, just like gold, just like oil, and it can be exported and imported. So we should look at ourselves as cultural exporters of Black culture, just like we export gold or technology, et cetera. That is a growth opportunity on a global scale. So I agree with the question.
So we have reached our conclusion, and of course, I want to hear a call to action from each of you who remain with us. But this was not designed to be a wholly contained conversation. This is going to be an ongoing discussion. The amazing Black women that have been a part of bringing us all together, who have been shouted out, who need to continue to be shouted out. And in fact, let's do that really quickly. Co-founders of the Publicists Forum, Aaliyah Crawford, Michelle Huff Elliott, Sarita Oglesby, Simone Smalls, and BOMESI's co-founders, Ronisha Bing and Davon Christopher Johnson. I want to give an extra special thank you to all of you, because as the conveners of this space, you hold sacred this moment in Black media. You hold sacred this moment that we are all experiencing as Black people who consume media. And I am so grateful for all of you. And so for everyone listening right now, this is a conversation that is indeed a testament to the brilliance, the resilience, and the necessity of our own media. And our panelists didn't just share lived experiences, but also very actionable ideas and some pathways as to how we need to be moving forward. We know, I'm going to just offer a couple of calls to action, and then I would love to hear from each of you as we all say our goodbyes. I'm hearing that we need to be subscribing to Black-owned media outlets. We need to be subscribing to alerts. If you are not subscribing to the GRIO, to Capital B, to Word in Black, these are both digital or entities that are all digital entities, and some have print capacity. If you are not subscribing there, you need to do that. You need to be subscribing to some newsletters. And in fact, we should give ourselves a challenge. And every single one of us here, I don't care how many you're already subscribed to, Find 5 additional Black media outlets that you can subscribe to by tomorrow. You've been given your assignment. Okay, we need to be purchasing these online and print subscriptions. And I'm thinking you should get that, because print media still happens. We should be supporting print media. We should have investment in print media. I love getting my papers delivered in the morning because I'm old school and I like newspaper. So we should be using that. And we should also be using hashtags like hashtag support Black media to help amplify Black voices and make sure that all of us have a vested interest in not just consuming Black media, be it owned or facing, but also cultivating media literacy so that we are discriminating. And if it ain't got the BOMESI sticker, I'm envisioning a space. Davon, feel like within a year, if it ain't got the sticker, we ain't going no thicker. I mean, I'm gonna have to come up with a better line than that. I'm trying to do this off the dome. So, work with me. I'm not a rapper by any means. I'm just saying, if you ain't got the BOMESI, you can't flow with us. I don't know. Y'all are good. We can do this. Come on. We gonna come up with it. But there has to be a standard, and we are going to set that standard. And if we are going to, that also requires us to make sure that we are training our community, our young people to our old people, about where the value in Black media is. I have said plenty. I want to start with Daytwan, get you back on here, Rae and Davon, and then we will pass the mic to our lovely conveners.
No doubt. I think one of the calls to action, and once again, thanks. It was an amazing conversation. I think one of the calls to actions that I think everyone that's on this call could do is check out the BOMESI site and find out more about that organization so you can be more informed when you're going out, starting to like say, I want to subscribe here, I want to subscribe there. I think having that as like home base for all of us really helps. So everyone that's on this call, go check them out and find out more. You know what I mean? There you go, Day.
Yeah, ditto to what Daytwan says. That's my big bro right there. Ditto to what he said. But yeah, there's a resource. BOMESI exists as a collaboration platform. So we are really supporting and supportive of Black-owned media and diverse-owned media working together. That's what we exist as. We're a nonprofit, so you can trust us. Our greatest growth, opportunities for you guys to work together. That's our currency, is collaboration and making Black-owned media stronger. And then also, be patient and be kind. Joy is an act of protest. So also just try to be kind in these times and things are crazy. Tap into your joy. And that's all I got for you.
I think the Publicists Forum are setting the best example, these powerhouses coming together. You know what I mean? I think if we continue as brands to operate in ISOs, they can continue to pit us together. If we come together, we're a force, like Voltron. They can't do anything. So I think one key thing is just think about somebody this week that you can collaborate with, call them, and make it happen.
I love this. I am so grateful to be in this space. And we are, look at that. We have 60 seconds left. Look at God. On behalf of the Publicists Forum and BOMESI, I want to just say thank you to our phenomenally brilliant panelists and to every single one of you who joined. Supporting Black-owned media is not just about equity. It's about ensuring that our stories remain visible, they remain powerful, and of course, they remain unshakable. And we are going to keep pushing this forward, and we will advance together because that's how we roll. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Aaliyah, are you going to officially give us the send-off?
Yes, I am. Thank you again. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, Lurie. You did an amazing job. Thanks, Rae, Daytwan, Corey, and Natasha. Thank you, Davon. Thank you, Ranisha. Thank you to my fellow co-founders of the Publicists Forum. Please, let's all follow each other if we are not already on social media. Let's follow us in our individual accounts as well as our company accounts. And please, we have a Facebook group, the Publicists Forum. So all publicists, are welcome to join, and also follow us on Instagram, the Publicists plural Forum. So thank you again. We will be hosting more events in the future and additional town halls. So let's all stay connected with one another and let's continue to build together. Gratitude. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.